Welcome everyone to Pommy Ponders. Hope we're all doing really well. Just waiting for my good mate Danny to join us. I think he's running a little bit late, but welcome in. I hope we're all doing really well. Let me know you're in. Big Fred Blogs. G'day, mate. How you doing? Cob Loaf. North got diddled. Oh, dearie me. Obviously, it's a week off for me, but I've been working hard, as you expect. But obviously, I've got a very special guest to join us this week. Good mate of mine, good friend of Pommy and Oz. You'll know him from the fan camps as well. I've got Big Danny in. How you doing, mate?
Good, Pom. How are you, mate?
Hey, I'm very well, mate. I'm excited for this. How have you spent your week off?
Oh, mate, it was a good weekend actually. All the boys, because it was the bye week. All the boys just spent on a weekend away to Rosebud, which was amazing. Coupled with a couple of Essendon supporters, so it was nice to give one back to them after what happened 12 months ago.
Well, I mean, I've got to say, spending a week with Essendon supporters after the week we had before, pretty good week to do it.
It was, and I was wearing this. So this is like Mitchell and Ness. My missus works for Mitchell and Ness as well. So I think they've done 160 years of Carlton. So they just ripped out a really cool jumper with premierships at the behind as well, which is pretty cool. So I wore this on the day, and they hugged me, and they were like, "Ah, I didn't know we have the Carlton jumper, or just the achievement of Carlton and how good they're doing." So it's obviously they are being a bit salty, but my happy days. We waited a long time. Trust me, the wooden spoons that I've seen since I've been in Australia, it's horrendous. So you know how it feels, Paul. I think you're pretty much there when it comes to footy and how Carlton's been so far.
Well, I suppose, Danny, I mean, we've both got similar stories. Obviously, we weren't born into football. Have you ever had the moment like I've had where, like, I look at 2018 and I remember having this moment in 2018 thinking, I chose this team. Like, I chose it. Like, it's not like my dad's forced me or family. Like, I stupidly went, nah, they're who I'm supporting. Has that ever crossed your mind? Because when you come to a new country, you have that wonderful free reign of just pick any sporting team, don't you?
Mhm. Interesting poem that you brought that up, and I think funny enough, our first conversation I think was on the fan cams after we finished our season after the prelim loss, and that's when I told you. So basically, as I just said, that it was in 2013 when I first came to Australia, and at the time, being born in Pakistan, so I came to Australia, and I was like, okay, came here for my studies, and then at the time, one of my mates who I used to live on campus at La Trobe University. So Peter, his name was. So he was a big Carlton fan. So he always used to wear his badges around. And I think when I came in, it was July, and that was the year before last year when we actually made finals. So he was like, "Oh, Carlton's the team," and everything. He told me everything about Carlton. Didn't even know what the game was, to be honest, because Pom, you love cricket. Obviously, I was born into cricket, and then that's what we thought. What MCG is, it's a cricket ground. But it
Yeah.
wasn't, because what I see is that there are more attendances for the footy games than it is for cricket game. And then it just hit me. And then that was the first reason. So one of my mates, Peter, at the time, he introduced me to the footy, the rules. It was a havoc, to be honest with you, when I was watching it for the first time. And then my first membership, free membership, if you were to call that, I think in that year, Carlton was distributing free memberships so that they can get the new students, or say, for example, new people entering in the country to, just familiarize themselves with footy. So that was my first game. So still have my scarf from 2013. And yeah, that was my first game watching Carlton play Richmond. So that's that, mate. It was amazing experience. So that's how I came into Carlton. And the rest is history.
I love you said the MCG is a cricket ground, because I remember one of the first games I went to was a Geelong game because my boss was a big Geelong fan. And he was like, I was like, oh, where is the game? And he was like, oh, we'll meet here at the Cricketers and then we'll go to the MCG. And I'm like, oh, there's a cricket ground named that here. And he was like, no, that is the cricket ground. And I'm like, you play football on a cricket ground? You're mental.
Yeah, it's It's crazy, isn't it? It's my looking back. To be honest, I know there's a T20 World Cup going in the background, but I swear to God, when I hand on heart, I haven't watched one game. I haven't watched a ball because obviously the time is a bit odd for us as well. But at the same time, um, what footy does to me, and because our Carlton's doing so well, I'll be honest. Obviously, after the debacle in 2017, 2018. I was like, when Cripps won the best and fairest or the John Nichols medal, I was like, oh, I don't know what are we gonna do with this. How where are we gonna go from here? Because it was just like the bottom of the bottom. And I think the only shining light from that, yeah, I remember was Sam Walsh. Got Sam Walsh because he was shit. So my sometimes that pays as well, you know.
It does. But I mean, obviously, we've had a nice week off. We've got to watch other teams, and we have some fun subjects here for you to go through, Danny. But obviously, for Carlton fans who are coming in the chat to see you all, this year really has been about AFL rule changes, hasn't it? And we talked about it at the start of the program. We both have gone through a process of learning the rules, and this is the kind of thing that gets me. I've never seen new rules so much as I have done in the last 12 months. Now, just a vibe check with you, Danny. What do you think about the rules? Because obviously, your cricket background, the rules of cricket haven't changed for nearly 300 years. We get new rules every 2 weeks in this game.
It's a slippery slope because I'm very passionate about this, the rules and what's being done to the game. I was looking at one of the slides, I think, a couple days ago, and it was just basically late rule changes that the AFL's done since 2021. So I think in 2021, we got introduced the medical stuff. So there was not during, it was like during the season when I say late changes. So medical stuff came in. 2022, umpire dissent. So that made way, and obviously one was paid in our favor against Fremantle. So that was props to us. 2023 was the tactical stuff. And now, 2024, long and behold, that runs down, we just get, oh, by the way, there's a subject called holding the ball. I actually thought I was fucking mental. I'm sorry for my language, but I thought I was crazy thinking that holding the ball was actually a thing because they weren't being paid. How many holding the balls we suffered during the first half of the season? We saw, especially I think if you remember, Sam Walsh, big victim of that. After the rule changed, Sam Walsh has been paid. I remember when I think Tez was really, really angry as well. Sam Walsh is, so two people have tackled him. One is holding his arm, one is holding his leg. And they was like holding the ball. I was like, literally, that was like one of the points where I was just lost my cool. And I was like, how can he dispose the ball from that position? He has to break his arm or probably injure one of his right legs to actually do that. So that was crazy. Holding the ball is something that I feel like, okay, they started really hard on that. And as the rounds went by, now you see that they are coming back to the median. They're being lenient. How many holding the balls in round 14 we saw that ended up not being paid? And then I think what the other one was I was thinking about was just the father son rule and new generation academies. I am for it. If you were to call me if you were to say, okay, what's your whole summary about it? I am for it, but there's a time and place, and there's enough notice for you to be given. I was like, okay, say for example in cricket, right? I don't know if everyone in our channel is obviously familiar with cricket, but in layman language, if say for example they're introducing, okay, the decision review system is going to be reviewed, and they're going to say that, oh, the umpire's call is going to matter in certain situations if half of the ball is touching the stance or whatever. It's going to be applied from, say, for example, a series after. So, say, for example, in the middle of the series, they can't apply that. People over here in the middle of the season change the interpretation of a hand in the ball. That's one. Now they're bringing the father and son rule, which is going to mess up with. Okay, yes, I saw your video, Pom. Very, very knowledgeable as well, and it actually gave me a lot of insight. So thank you for that. But about the Camperellis and how we are probably not going to get affected because they're not going to be the top 20 picks, if you were to call that. I'm for it, as I said, but then again, I don't think applying it in this year and after seeing Laura Kane, what she said in SEN, that, oh, we are probably going to implement that rule in 2 months' time. So you are still not set on what you're going to do. And in 2 months' time, which is say July or August, is when you're going to tell them, oh, well, it's not going to be a thing anymore. Make it make sense. Like, come on.
It's a funny thing because you mentioned cricket there, and I remember a couple of years back when they changed the rule from you could take a possession straight from the kick-in. And like cricket, when they test new rules, we have so many divisions where they can kind of guinea pig it. So, like, I know in England when they brought in the review system in county cricket, that started with club cricket first, which no one cared about. They tested it. Then it went the next tier, and then we saw it come into the international standard. It's weird that we've kind of also stopped doing that. Like, I remember when they had the kick-in rule, and then with some state leagues, they extended the kick-in square to try and make them kick it further. They guinea-pigged the rules. It's weird now. We're kind of just skipping the middleman and going, right, holding the ball needs sorting out. Let's change the interpretation. And then straight away, 2 days later, it's live, as opposed to you've got junior football, you've got NAB football, you've got VFL. Like, these are the places maybe you trial it and say, let's see how it works. Let's see how it looks, the feedback from the umpires, the players, before we do it with our biggest game.
Man, you couldn't have said it better. 100%. You obviously tried at, say, for example, grassroots, if you were to call that. It, like, you as you said, there's so many other VFL. Start from the VFL. If you really want to test it where actually some of the AFL professionals are playing as well, make them, like, just make that, use that as your sample or a guinea pig, if you were to call that. Like, make that, but just implementing it mid-season in a chaotic situation like that, which kind of just like drags me to the conversation for me, because it's not just that the umpiring standard, right? And we can talk about this for days, so I'm not going to ramble about it. But what happened during the Collingwood game, I hate Collingwood, yes, but it's not about hating them. It's about, in the last 9 minutes of the game, the umpire probably just like dropped his whistle in the middle of the crowd. I don't know what happened. Dacos got, I'm pretty sure Pommy saw that he got tackled. So he pays the mark. Bill McCreary and Side Bottom literally go past the mark and also push him. I swear, from whatever footage I've watched, that's why I see. Sometimes I feel like I don't know any rules because I'm dumb or I just can't see. But any time of the game, barring for last minute of the game, that's a 50-meter penalty. Easy. Like, no questions asked. Like, even the commentator, like, he's like, even when that happened, he was like 50-meter penalty. And then I saw some people arguing from Collingwood side of the game, but the umpire called play on, and also the player moved. The player, his obviously momentum takes him back. And obviously, if the umpire is not saying anything, they have 40 seconds on the clock. What is he going to do? He's obviously going to take the game on. Like, he's not going to stand there and then wait and then both of the players tackle him and then they're in the middle of nowhere. So it's just one of those games. Like Isaac Rankin, he ran fucking 50 meters more and didn't bounce the ball twice. Like, come on, like, okay, I understand. If you are going to apply the rules, apply them consistently so that if it happens in those, say, for example, whatever situations we faced, we were like, you know what? We bit the bullet on that one. We're going to part in this one, in this scenario as well. It's inconsistencies. And for me, like, that's what, and I feel like Adelaide is the team that actually just copped it from left, right, and center. Adelaide Crows. And they actually lost their final spot to Swans last year because of that. So either they overcorrect or they just literally leave their whistle. What do you reckon about that?
I think you've nailed it. And like, I think Michael makes a point here. Like, we've got the rules committee and I expect rules to be made. I think my issue is with you, is exactly what you're saying. When you're changing the rules in the year, that you've got different eyes and then suddenly you're being told, right, focus on holding the ball. And I've noticed in the AFL, when they come up with this, right, like the Jack Ginnivan ducking, for 2 weeks, we saw anyone who slightly lost legs could be like punched in the face and it was play on. But then 2 weeks later, people forget, they started looking at time wasting. And suddenly the umpires forgot about ducking your head and started looking at time wasting. Are people taking too long to move the ball on? And it's like a constant chain of events. It's like this week, I guarantee this week, in this round, you are going to hear clear whistles and stand your ground. And the minute someone goes near the mark, it's going to be 50 because it's reactive. Like Paul says, all of our league is reactive. But I agree with you, Danny. You know what annoys me, though? And this is, I want to have a rant about umpires. This sport is the only sport in the world that the umpires seem to be blameless. Like, at the end of that game, I saw people slagging off Zach Fisher, like saying, go back to kicking school. He's bloody useless. Absolute shit footballer, cost us the game. But very little comments about the umpires. And why can't, if the players get criticised, why are the umpires always absolved of responsibility? One of my good friends works security at Marvel, and he told me you are more likely to be ejected from the ground for saying something about an umpire than you are a player. He was like, that is literally what they're looking for. Why are the umpires protected? In my sport, football, in the UK, we have an umpire panel, and you can be relegated if you make mistakes. And then you're retrained, and then you have to go through a process to go back in. And that review panel is ex-players and coaches and referees. So they look at the decisions. You've got to go in and explain it. And if they are not happy with it, you lose your rights to do the big games and you win it back. Why don't we have that here? Like, that's what amazes me, that Laura Kane has come out, and for me, she was just trying to get people out of trouble. I don't think she believed what she was saying. But I don't understand, why can't they just say the umpire was shit? Like, no one's going to get hurt. Just get better.
Yeah. Right. Pom, as you said, even I'm a big soccer fan. Premier League, I'm a La Liga fan, Barca fan, not doing too good right now, but I understand where you're coming from when it comes to VAR. VAR is just as controversial, if not more. But then again, VAR serves the purpose for howlers. The howler happened last week. Then again, the Collingwood game, Jack Crisp's goal was touched, and they're making this exception where, okay, for example, okay, the goal, if it's paid or not, when you actually, the ball's gone to the center circle, sorry, and it's going to get reviewed and it's going to get looked at, and then they're going to do that. I think I remember which game, I don't remember, that it was paid a goal, but then after the review, they celebrated everything, it was called a behind, and then they had to start from the center square, so from the goal square. Why did they not do that? Jack Crisp's goal was touched. And people might think that I'm touching. I'm just saying, like, this is the recent, you can say recency bias, or you can say this is recently that I've picked on. And one team, like, no, actually, it's not going to do wonders for the season. I'm pretty sure they're going to find a lot of positives from the game, because fighting premiers like that, and being, I think, 30 odd points off in the fourth quarter, I saw the comeback coming, I'm not going to lie. But that would have been a big booster for them. So you basically depriving teams of that. And at the end of the day, they was like, oh, I see a lot of people saying, a lot of my friends, like, Nuffy's from Collingwood clan, but they shouldn't be relying on the umpire decision when it's fourth quarter. Why not? Like, I understand if it's, say, for example, if they played a bad game, like the Fremantle Carlton game, right? People obviously hang on to that because that's the only game in fucking 50 years that I got lucky with umpiring. In that game, it was tossed, and Cortez obviously marks the ball. Like, how many marks do we see end up getting paid when actually the defender and the full forward isn't actually in a contest? It's probably touched by the defender, but obviously the marks paid by to the full forward because he marks the ball. How many times have you watched it? If you want to go and slow frame by frame, just be a bit more sensible. I feel it's a contact sport. The touches are going to happen, but if you want to be strict, as you said in soccer, VAR, with that ball technology, with the goal line technology, if the ball's in or not, it's as simple as that. There are no arguments there. But then you kind of obviously get rid of these howlers and stuff. So umpiring, I'm telling you, Paul, now you can probably clip this in the grand final or in the final series. A big howler is going to happen, and something's going to give. 100%.
it's going to cost. I agree with you. I mean, I think last year, I'm surprised. Like, Paul makes this great point. Why aren't they full time? Like, I thought, like you mentioned earlier, Adelaide lost finals because of a dodgy decision. Like, and for me, I think you're right, Danny. I think it's going to happen to a big team. It's going to happen to a big team. And for some reason, that is the only way we ever get change in this game. Like, it has to happen to a big club in a big moment, and then it's a problem. Like, everyone's saying, like you say, Danny, oh, they were 50 points ahead. It's only North. They were going to lose anyway. And it kind of gets swept under the carpet. But imagine if that was the Brisbane-Carlton semi-final last year. Carlton went out to a 60-point lead. 2 minutes to go. Carlton cling on. And then that happens. Total different story. You're talking about potentially a flag has been cost by a stupid error.
It happens so much. It's happened so much. There's so many gray areas. Like, say, for example, just briefly touching on this, with the Maynard incident with what happened with the Melbourne guy, forgetting his name. What was his name, Pom? The guy got concussed and then had to retire.
Oh, Ed Langdon. Brayshaw. The
Brayshaw,
other Brayshaw,
yes.
Not Andrew.
James Brayshaw. Yeah.
James, that's it.
So he gets concussed, and he gets slapped a fine, and the next year they just ban it altogether. Like, the extreme is you get a fine or you just get a ban. The other thing is, while we're on this topic about how there's in the things I don't agree with, is the Brownlow, right? I feel like in FIFA, like, say, for example, in soccer, if, say, for example, Rashford, say, for example, has a beautiful season, right? And he gets a red card in one of the games, is he not going to win the Ballon d'Or? Is he not going to be in Team of the Year? What is this? Like, we're just picking at things. Like, the fairest thing, as you said, Tom, I think I saw one of your videos where you say it was played by farmers, or it was played by people who would just want to fucking bash each other. And that's where the rule came in that, you have to be fair, blah, blah, blah. So you're not killing off, like, retiring someone out of the game. The game's moved on, and everyone actually are mates. All the footy players are mates. Nobody wishes bad upon someone. It's professional. They are well-paid players. Obviously glory matters, but then at the end of the day, it's a sport. It's a job for them. So what they're doing right now is, okay, like Zach Butters, what happened to him? Twice he has obviously gone to the panel with a suspension, and twice that has been taken away from him. So, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, Paul, that it is because he is in the contention for the Brownlow. So if those kind of suspensions happen when it's a 50-50, he just gets away with it. I don't agree with that.
You see, I think you've nailed it, Danny, because I think, like, I understand the fairest aspect. It's like a cultural AFL thing, but I agree with you. It's so manipulated because I said it ages ago with the Cripps suspension. I think the Cripps on Archie was probably a suspension. I really do. Like, in my heart of hearts, probably was a suspension, right? If we're being fair. But I would love to have seen that incident if that was Lockie Fogarty. Would he have got off it? If it was Lockie Fogarty and if the referees and the review panel knew he's not winning a Brownlow, so if you give him 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, doesn't matter. But was there a little bit of pressure there, them thinking, you know what, if we suspend him and he wins a Brownlow, Jesus, it's a 50-50 footballing act. I agree with you. I would love to see the fairest element carry the suspension. I would love them to say, right, if you get less than a 2-week suspension, you're still okay, but it's an additional punishment. If you do, like, I don't know, a punch off the ball, you get 2 weeks and you're ineligible for the Brownlow. Use it as a punishment. Don't use it as a black and white. Because, like, the fact Harley Reid can't win the Rising Star when he's the best player by a mile it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And the other thing is, Lewis Young got punched in the face by Jesse Hogan. Punched, so it should be intentional. Like, it's not but he didn't cop a hit. He didn't get concussed, or he's not bleeding. Man, he got punched in the face. Like, what, do you really want him to get knocked out for him to get suspended? I don't agree with that. It's more the action rather than the consequence that should be punished, is what I believe.
His excuse in the tribunal was the best excuse I've ever heard, because I think when I used to punch my big brother, this was my excuse to my parents, and he said he was trying to push him, but he slipped. And I was like, with a closed fist, though. Like, I've never pushed someone like that. It's always been open palmed. But it did sound like how I used to explain when my brother was crying how it happened. It was like, oh, I pushed him.
It just doesn't make sense. But I probably live and die by the sword, I guess. But I'm glad that obviously with how we've struggled with a lot of things when it comes to umpiring, I hope we don't cop the fair rough end of the stick when it comes to that. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Well, you mentioned the other part of the rules, right? Right. And at the moment, Laura Kane, God bless her, is doing a very rough job of explaining things. It's not just the 50-metre penalty she struggles to explain. There's also the draft rules that we've talked about. And honestly, no one knows what they are. And neither do the AFL. She's confirmed in her last radio interview that there is many avenues they've looked at. And all she would tell us is they're trying to make it fair. So what I did, because we just don't know, which is classic AFL. They won't tell us what the rules are. So I thought I'd have a go at trying to make it fair. And one of the things I want everyone to be aware of is one of the rules that was suggested last year. Laura Kane probably is telling the truth. The clubs do know, because there was an article in September last year during the trade period. The AFL were going to review the system. And one of the rules that was suggested was it was going to be a first rounder to match first round picks, second rounder to match a second, third is a third, fourth is a fourth, to try and stop teams trading out. But I can do better. I think I can fix it. But I want to caveat this, that my rules would give you 2 trade windows. I think it needs to come in now for 2025. So teams have 2 trade windows to fix any mistakes. And they also have a draft as it stands. So I don't think you can do it this short. But the first suggestion I've got is, for those watching at home, the pick match system. Imagine every pick in the AFL has a dollar amount. I always like to think of it as money. So pick one, retail price is 3,000 Australian dollars, right? So, and then it goes down by a percentage every pick. So pick 2, a little bit cheaper, pick 3, a little bit cheaper. And roughly, when you look at it, it goes down. I think it's 15% increments. It goes down. It goes quite small, but it roughly works out. Pick 1's $3,000. Pick 2's 2,017. Pick 3's 2,234. And then we have the match system, which makes it more complicated. So if you have pick 1, that's $3,000 normally. If you're bidding on a player, though, you get like a special Costco discount card, but it only costs you $2,400. So what I'm suggesting is that doesn't go to pick 69 like the current rules. The current rules, pick 55 is the cheapest points, and it's 72 is $19 basically. I'm saying only picks 1 to 30 have any points. So that way, clubs have to hold these picks to match bids, and any player after pick 30, in my opinion, you should be picking up anyway with the picks you have. If there's a player outside the top 30, they're not going to be very good statistically anyway. You might as well pick them with pick 31 instead of hoping someone matches it. So what do you think of that one first, Danny? We half the number of picks that have any value.
I couldn't agree more. Because when I think we briefly when you sent me this slide, I was reading it, and literally every point that you had there made sense. Because at the end of the day, the 20% discount that they offer, for the rules. For say, for example, if the player is playing in the academies, which is obviously the next generation academies, I don't believe that there should be no discounted system, because at the end of the day, Pom, what happens is, if people have followed trade, it took me a while to actually get used to how that all of those things work. It's pretty complicated, to be honest. But if, say, for example, you are trading your first pick just because you want your next generation academy player that you actually was in your academy and you want that player, then obviously you're giving a pick one. And then obviously when you give that pick one to another, say, for example, say Bulldogs who have won the premiership, they obviously are, it's the whole premise of pick one is lost, because then at the end of the day, the team that's struggling is not getting that pick. And I agree that half the picks, with only picks to with obviously the points values for matching. So if you half the picks and then after 30 picks, there's $0, if you were to call it that, like you should be able to pick it with the picks that you have anyway. That is it's gonna mean more for them having picks. So I agree. 100%.
Yeah, no, and that's what leads me on to the second one. So one of the unforgotten rules about the AFL is you've actually got to pre-sign these players. So there's actually something called an NGA and a father-son paperwork. And what that is basically an agreement between the player and the club that they will be protected to go to that club. So what I'm suggesting here is not forcing clubs to have first rounders, but for every player you fill that paperwork out for you to protect them players, you must take a pick greater than pick 25 into that draft. Now, you can have more than one. You could have 10. I don't care. But you must have one to stop teams doing what Gold Coast did last year, which was selling 2 first rounders and bringing in 8 picks between 25 and 40. Make them hold the picks so other teams don't benefit from them trying to cheat the system.
So, perfect, literally perfect. What happened with them was just they cheated the system. And to be honest, who wouldn't, Paul? Who wouldn't? If we were given the chance to do that, I feel like I would do it. And it's just the system flaw, to be honest. And what you propose there, it makes a lot of sense. If you remember what happened with Jamara as well, the Jamara rule, as it was called, the similar situation. They played the grand final, and then I think it was the Crows who had the pick one at the time, I think. And yeah, they just used their bids and they just matched it and got the first pick. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, to be honest.
And what people don't understand is the underhand dealings in the AFL. So I have it on very good authority that when Nick Dacos is drafted, if you remember that, there was a few trades done with Collingwood, right, at the time in that deal. And I have it on very good authority, Now, don't take me as scripture, but the gentleman that's told me is very prominent in AFL list management, that there was an agreement between 2 clubs before Collingwood that they wouldn't bid on Nick Dacos in exchange for some petitioning in the back end of a prospective AFL rule change, which isn't the first time it's happened that teams will negotiate and say, look, there's a vote coming up. If you vote our way, we'll do this for you. And it's not the first time it's happened. And it's obvious it's happened because you look at father and sons historically, it's weird that they don't get bid on when they should get bid on.
With Nick Dacos, isn't it? I didn't know that story about the rule change. So that's a revelation to me. Pom, you always have the insider knowledge, right? And that's why we love Pommy knows.
Mate, when I was told it didn't surprise me because I remember doing the draft that year and just saying that Nick Dacos is the best player in this draft by a country mile. The fact not one team has bid on him until pick 3 is scary to me because pick 1, it should have been Nick Dacos, bid matched, Jason Horne-Francis. We move on with our lives. So there is dodgy deals that go on all the time just out of the thing. But one of the rules in the AFL, and this is my third rule, is you've got to use 2 first-round selections in a 4-year window. Now, that can be in 1 year. That can be staggered from year 1 to year 4. But you've got to use 2 picks below 18 in every 4-year window. So my rule to stop teams crying about holding a pick below 25 is if you hold one of them picks. So let's just use Ben Camporelli as an example. Say Carlton hold pick 16, pick 14 comes round, a team bids on him, Carlton use 16 and another pick to match the bid. In favour of doing that, Carlton will have 16 count as they've used 2 first-year picks. So suddenly now, Carlton have 3 years worth of firsts that they can trade out or play with in the drafts coming up. So it benefits the club to match the bid by us saying, okay, you use it twice. We'll say it's used twice, even though you've used it once. So it benefits you next year.
I feel like that third point makes the most sense to me. Just plainly because it adds value to the first picks and also gives the clubs that flexibility, and also the 4-year period obviously will have more significance because it's not gone and forgotten. So I agree with you, Paul, on that. Sure.
I love it. And big shout out as well to Theffy Barris, who's in chat. Big supporter of the channel. Good to see you catch a live, mate. But the next one is weird that the AFL hate father and sons all of a sudden. And the northern states, Queensland, Gold Coast, Sydney, they get protected still under the NGA. The rest of us, we don't have protection until after pick 40. But they are protected all the time. I propose a change. So I agree why the AFL do it. The AFL do it because they're not football states. So they're trying to help them clubs get some kids early, train them up, and create a bit of loyalty so they don't piss off to Victoria. My suggestion is that counts after pick 5. If they are a top 5 player and they are a top 5 talent, top 5 talents mean the 5 worst clubs in the AFL. They should be allowed, in my opinion, to pick anyone they want because they are a rubbish club. They need the help. So example this year, Will Ashcroft's brother, Levi, is currently picked 2 in skill level. That would mean Brisbane can't match the bid unless they get inside the top 5. It's anyone's pick. It's anyone's pick. So if Brisbane want him, they need to trade for pick 1 in the trade window.
Interesting. I don't think AFL would agree with that, though. I think it's so skewed. I don't even know anymore. I know, yes, Victorian teams. I was looking at this statistic about why is the Northern academies a thing and why are they so protected. We get it, of course, interstate Victorian players going there, so they got to protect their own players and blah blah. But at the same time, I feel like they are so babied and loved, those clubs, that it is going to be a thing that I would love it, because imagine Heaney or Chad Warner in Carlton or any other club, if they were to finish that. If we were, say, for example, back in 2018, if we were in a situation where we are one of the bottom teams, that would make a lot of sense. But kind of just throws our mind to what happened with McAndrew. Probably could have ended in Melbourne, but had to go to the Suns. So yeah.
I agree. I mean, this is one of them rules that I reckon you would see Brisbane, Gold Coast would cry about. But my argument with this is this would encourage a good team like Brisbane, if they really wanted him, to trade him. There's a player called Leonardo Lombard this year who I actually think is Gold Coast's best ever academy player. I think this kid is sensational, and I look at it and I just think Gold Coast currently have picks 4 and 10. Now, basically what's going to happen, even if they change the rules, I guarantee they'll use pick 4 on someone else. This rule here would basically say, maybe you've got to trade with North because North might take him pick 2. So suddenly North need a little bit of help. West Coast need a bit of help. They've got pick 1, pick 3 potentially. Suddenly it creates a dilemma of saying, well, hang about, you've stockpiled picks. If you really want Leonardo, we're taking him. We're taking him pick 2. So you're going to give us 4 and 10. We'll give you 2 so you can secure your talent. I want to make teams be forced to trade. Forced to trade to protect their young kids. Because I think it's stupid in my heart of hearts. And I'll go back to Nick Dacos' draft. If they'd used pick 1 on Nick Dacos, they didn't get any benefit. They just got Jason Horne-Francis. They basically just get pushed back. So I find it ludicrous that a team bidding can't have any benefit from doing it. All he does is piss off his rival. Wouldn't it be great, this system? Suddenly there's a benefit. I can bid on your player or you trade with me. So I get something back.
It makes so much sense, isn't it? It makes so much sense for AFL to say, nah, I'm going to do it. But 100% brings, as I said, all of the pointers that you have, Pom, they actually bring substance and value to the trade, to the picks. It means something rather than using it as a bargaining chip for whatever you want to do in the future.
And the big one is for them guys who are into guys and girls into economy. We've seen hyperinflation in the history of the world. I mean, 1930s pre-Germany was a good one where they started printing money, and that created even more inflation. The AFL does its own form. We give picks away. We just make picks up. Maribor Chol signs for another club, and the AFL just make a pick up and say, here's pick 18. You haven't done anything for it. What I'm suggesting here is there is a thing called unprotected free agency and restricted free agency. So for those who don't know, restricted free agency, if I'm a player and I want to go and sign with Danny, my club offer me some money, Danny offers me a bit more, I choose Danny, and then the AFL pay my old club a pick so I can go and sign with Danny. What I'm suggesting is the RFA and the free agency, the restricted free agency, are abolished, right? And we just have a standard, you move, and that's fine. And we create a forced trade between the two clubs. So in my scenario, if I want to sign with Danny, the AFL say, right, Dan's leaving. He's going to go and sign with his mate Danny. This is the value, and it's using the same point system. They say Dan is worth pick 18, and Danny's club to pay my old club has to pay 985 points. So we suddenly have a pick match with real players with real picks. And this does two things. One, it stops clubs doing what they do all the time, paying someone $2 million to get the deal done, knowing they don't have to pay. So it makes a fairer contract system. But two, it stops teams pissing about and pretending to want a player to up the value of their contract. We saw it this year, Essendon and St Kilda. They overpaid out of contract players and then 2 weeks later did a trade for them picks back to each other. That is as unethical as what Gold Coast did. So this system, the clubs pay the price, not the AFL.
I cannot put a word in there. You literally, this is like schooling, Paul. You school all the chat today. I love that. Man, you should AFL. I'm pretty sure AFL. I see a lot of shows quoting you guys indirectly. I don't know. They probably say they won't watch you, but this is beautiful. This is so much knowledge. Chat, pay attention because this is beautiful. Like how we can add value to not only the draft but also the under the table dealings that the clubs have, and they've been doing it for years. Like they don't have the money, yet they go and buy players just knowing the fact that they won't have to pay eventually anyway. And to be honest, it's more like like taxi drivers on ABNs, just understanding the income just because they know that they're gonna get away with it, and then ATO knows about it, but they don't do anything. Same with the AFL, they know this goes on, they don't do anything. But this needs to change, Pom. And what you're proposing is a rejig, full rejig of the system. And to be honest, they would take 1 point and just take it for what it is rather than exactly understand the premise behind it, because this is beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, mate.
100% agree with it.
I've tried to follow what Laura Kane said. She wants to make it fair. So I think if we're changing one rule, let's change the whole system. And this rule here is my favourite because I call it the Adam Sard rule. So not only do we have restricted free agent and unrestricted free agent, we have another one called the non-contract free agent, which is the most stupid rule I have ever seen in sport. It basically means I am unemployed. So if Danny wants to buy me, I have no contract. I'm not getting paid anymore, but I don't fall into any of the categories. So the only way Danny can get me is trading with my club. Even though I'm not owned by them anymore, he has to trade with them. Or my other option is I go into the draft and hope Danny picks me up and hopes I slide to him. What I'm proposing is we do what we do in every other sport. Once you are out of contract, if you don't fall under them deals, as soon as September the 1st hits, I can just sign a contract with Danny. And my club get nothing. I'm just Danny's player. I get the freedom to move where I want. And this idea is to force clubs to commit to players. You renew the contracts earlier. You don't wait till September. You budget accordingly and get him under lock and key. Don't keep waiting and waiting. You sign the deal. If you really want the player, you value him, you do it early.
This kind of just throws my mind to soccer, right? Because you and I love soccer, right? What do they do like with their transfer windows? We have obviously the summer transfer window, which is the main transfer window where everything happens. And then we have the winter transfer window where we basically is more for role players or just basically to get just the fringe players in the team. That's how I see it. Why can't we adopt a system that kind of mirrors that? What do you think hampers AFL to follow that kind of a system?
You know what? It's funny because she mentioned the mid-season trade period and she said that most of the clubs didn't like it. And I can maybe understand why, because I think that, one, the salary cap is so grey and it works year to year. So I think you'd have to float that. I also think the list sizes are too small. It would be amazing to see if the AFL scrapped the mid-season draft and said, we have a January trade window, and the list sizes were suddenly 80 and we had our own state league. And that's where maybe the deals would start coming. If we started saying, all right, Carlton's reserves, maybe Alex Murkoff, maybe North, they've injured a ruckman. And then maybe North look and say, shit, let's get Alex Murkoff. We'll swap a fourth. I think maybe you'd see it then. I just think maybe the list sizes are too small, and that's why we include the state leagues with mid-season draft. But I'd love to see it. I would love to see a mid-season draft and get rid of injury lists and say, you've got to trade.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also, while you touch on that, and just popped up in my head, even having loan players, how we use in soccer. Somebody can go on loan and develop there. And say, for example, if North Melbourne, as you said, maybe it has an injured ruckman and we have Murkoff who's not going to see a day in the sun on the ground when it comes to Carlton. You want AFL experience? Go play at North Melbourne. We'll loan you out. Good for that club who gets a good ruckman, if you were to call Murkoff that. And good for us because in the long run, he's going to come back to the club and he already has some AFL experience under his belt.
Loans have been something I have always thought would work. I think, like, if you're a club like Carlton at the moment, like Jackson Binns, right? Too good for VFL. Probably can't get in the seniors at the minute. West Coast have injuries. Wouldn't it be great to loan him to them for 3 months and say, look, play AFL, play in a good system in the elite league. We get to look at what he's like risk-free. But it also increases his value because, like I said this about Dow last year, if Carlton could loan Dow, you might get a second all of a sudden because he's showcased he's still got the skills and he's not used in VFL. I agree. I think a loan system could be a magical way around it.
And would also solve the salary cap issue as well for the clubs.
Well, they've already committed. Like, the why I think a loan works is it goes year to year. So my salary cap now has Alex Murkoff on it. If you rang me up tomorrow as North and said, Pom, we need a ruckman. I've looked at Murkoff. He looks like he's ready to go. Could we have him? We've already paid his salary. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's already on our books. So for me, why can't we have that negotiation? Because he's still developing. Everything's all good to me.
Agree. Thanks,
and then
Pommy.
the next one is, I've already predicted it. So I remember in 2020, one of my draft videos, 2021, I talked about 2023's draft and Gold Coast having 6 players at the time who were the 25 best players in the country. And I did predict what would happen. They would cheat the system and someone would benefit. I remember saying someone will benefit from their picks and it will be a good team. It won't be a shit team. A good team will steal first rounders. Tasmania are coming in, which means we're going to have another compromised draft. Now, the rule for Tasmania so far is that they will get, according to the AFL, 15 picks before 20 in 2 years. So that basically means 7. They haven't specified how, but that could be 6 1 year, 9 the next, could be 10 1 year, 5 the next. I've proposed a way around that. So my way is Tasmania are entered in the draft 2 years before, right? They don't play, but 2 years before. And we will put them in the State League, which is the plan. They're meant to enter 2026 in the State League, in the VFL, right? We allow them to have an AFL salary cap and sign players for 2 years. So they get an AFL contract. That's the incentive for the 18-year-old. I'm playing state football, but I'm on big boy wages. And every club gets 4 years picks next year when my rules come into play. So at the moment, they only get 2 years. I'm suggesting 4 years because that gives them plans to advance for 2026. And it also gives them some workarounds. And in my opinion, if you've got to use 2 first rounders in 4 years, you should have them up front so you always know what you're doing. And that would then stop the compromise draft because that means Tasmania get access to their players 2 years before they play in AFL, 2 years of development. They get to build a list early. So when they come into the AFL, it's not 15 picks. It's probably 5 a year, which is manageable. And the other clubs have been forewarned. They've already got them picks. So they've made the choice. Do we want to do that? Or do we want to buy players now? I think this is such a logical thing because Gold Coast and GWS destroyed drafts for 3 years each time they've entered.
Yeah. Well, if it's all, if people know the draft and how it's worked, it's there to see how it was abused. And that's why I think it just kind of became a laughing stock at the time. I think when Gold Coast pulled that off, paying like peanuts for the picks that they had. But if they were to do that, it's going to be amazing, Tom, because imagine if they have them playing the state league, as you said, and 2 years in advance, they are on good wages. That's the incentive, and they are getting developed. At the same time, the other clubs that are already there, the central clubs, are not getting disadvantaged to the point that it is almost like such a compromised draft that they can't even do anything. So that's why everyone's panicking. That's why they're saying that bringing in these rules now, we know that 2026 is going to be a write-off for us anyway. So we might have to play our cards now. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. And as much as it makes sense that we shouldn't have a father-son rule change this year.
Mate, and the last one, apologies any Geelong fans in chat, because I promised, I think it was October last year, I'd stop bringing this up. So I've lied. I am bringing it up one more time. But it will be the last time. I have got over it. But last year we saw the dodgiest deal probably in AFL history. And that was Jack Bowes leaving Gold Coast. Now, the reason that was, if you remember, is Jack Bowes left Gold Coast because he was being overpaid. And somehow, in 2022 season, Geelong not only got Jack Bowes, but they also got a top 10 pick, right? they got a top 10 pick. So they not only got a good player, they also got a top 10 pick for taking him. And this is what we call a salary cap dump. A salary cap dump. Now, the reason that happened, and Geelong did them a favour because it was a lot of money. I think Shane's there, 700k. Spot on. It's a lot of money that you're paying him a year. But the reason that happened is because Geelong didn't meet the minimum requirement of the salary cap. So there is a max you can spend. There is a minimum you have to spend. Carlton, we famously did it because we got Nick Graham and we got God knows who else we got from fucking GWS. It was like laughable at times. I think we actually traded for the milkman at one point. But I am proposing get rid of that. Get rid of that. You can pay $10 a year or the max. It doesn't matter. Don't make teams delete players or pay players over just to make the minimum spend. It's up to them. If they have loads of money left over, they have loads of money left over. I would rather see maybe that gets allocated to the cap. So there is a minimum spend. And then if you're so far under it, you can then buy an extra coach over your soft cap for the coaches. Don't make clubs have Jack Bowles deals and actually make it forbidden for you to do it if you are in the top 8 of last year's competition. So no club can benefit from this rule of getting an extra pick if they're in the top 8. So if they do it, it has to be a low elite tier club that's willing to do it. And that will then incentivize a good player coming across. Because no disrespect to Jack Bowes, he isn't a 700k footballer.
No. To be honest, that's exactly Paul. Paul nailed it. That's what I've been saying. It makes too much sense for them to say, okay, let's just do it. And the thing is, from like the salary caps, I understand why AFL's done that. Like, what's the premise behind it? But in the thick of things, it does not make sense. As you said, Bose was not obviously worth 700k. So you cannot say that, okay, well, we're going to do that so that we can not cheat the system, but do what we need to do just because we have to do it. It does not make sense. And also, I feel if a lower tier club does that and you want to reward them for it, fair enough. But for clubs who obviously in the top 8 and all of that stuff, I don't agree with that. To be honest, I think it should be a free market where the demand kind of settles, or you'll see what the market is like. I know like football market is very inflated because it's all based on demand, and then crazy deals happen, the Neymar deal happens, and then the market is out of whack. Now everyone and their dog is worth 100 mil. But 100% I agree with that as well. It's a bit that's actually the Geelong deal. I didn't know about that, to be honest, Tom. So that's a learner for me as well. So thank you. But yeah, I don't agree with that. And it does make sense what you just said, for sure.
It is my favourite deal. I've got Shane here. I'm guessing you're a Geelong fan. I am sorry. It is the worst deal, though. Stand by it. The worst deal I've ever seen in the AFL. Like, it's brilliant for you, but the fact that even exists. But my suggestion is, I didn't quite know how this would work, but I would like to see, we've got the soft cap, and it's called the soft cap because there's no real punishment for how much you spend on coaches. But I would like to see young clubs, if you choose to delete your senior players, like Hawthorn did, right? I would like to see you can go as hard as you want, but then maybe there'd be a benefit elsewhere. So I would think if I was running a club with youngsters, I would like to be able to maybe bring in a couple of development coaches for 2 years until I meet that minimum requirement and the players are good enough to help them. I feel like it's a little bit different. Like, I agree with what you're saying, that they can't use their cap. And I agree that I don't blame Geelong for taking that deal because I think it was the best deal ever for Geelong. But my argument is teams shouldn't be forced to pay it. My club, Carlton, I won't name the players, but I know in 2018, they signed deals for 400k. They were delisted 2 years later. We had to do that to meet the floor, right? Which, in an ideal world, Carlton would have just paid them what they were worth, 200k, and just went about their day. But that rule for me, I don't think it's fair. I would rather see either a list extension so they can get more draft picks and bring in more babies on 100K. Don't force it to be an average player on ridiculous salaries, because then, like Danny says, it warps the value. Because if Jack Bowes is 700K, everyone's going to start fucking asking for it.
If Jack was his dad, how much is Charlie Kerner?
Like, no, it's not a pop though, Shen. I'm glad. I mean, I went to my boss after Jack Bowes went, and I was like, my salary is 130K. You better pay me 500. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I want 500 flat now. Yeah, I mean, I went bold. Like, I was ringing Geelong. No one would answer my calls. I wanted to know who facilitated that deal.
I agree with the soft cap thing, Pom. Like using it on young players, or also just advancing your facilities. Like I remember Richmond was struggling. I think a couple of months ago when they were trying to redevelop the stadium, and they were actually went to the members seeking that kind of help from the members, so that they can get the ball rolling with that. So they should actually use that kind of money. So if they have extra spending money, so you can actually use it to the extension of the soft cap, which is going to benefit the club anyway, either be it advancing your facilities via coaches or other stuff, or just bringing in younger players, which kind of benefits the game anyway. So, yeah.
And it is worth noting as well that the reason Gold Coast did that is it was new list management as well, Shane. Like, I agree with you. It's probably bad cap management, but this happened with Carlton as well. So we had old list managers that got us into a bad cap management space. And then when Sauce came in, he had to rework it, and he got rid of so much shit players that he had to play shit players more money as he redeveloped the list. So I think in that situation, it's really not fair if you sack a list manager, a new one comes in, and then he's faced with the prospect of giving a crap player $1 million a year to get rid of 8 players. Like, it should be, for me, you've got your money. If you're under it, you're under it. Do you know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, that's my fair. I think it's fair that way.
Sure. That was amazing. Thanks for those slides, actually. That kind of, you always learn, and I learned from those as well. Mostly when it came to, making the round first 20 picks more valuable, having a 4-year extension period as well, so that you can actually not just use it as like ace up your sleeve and actually putting the values on the picks. And then also with the father-son rule and everything, the discounts that are offered, I feel like they should pay the worth that the players are in the market, regardless of if it's from their academy or if it's not. But as I said, to cap it all off, there should be enough notice. You just can't say, and you said there was an article in September, I remember, where they said that this is going to happen and stuff. But then you can't be saying that, oh, in 2-3 months, we're going to tell you what happens next week. What? Like, people have prepared their list. We've traded, I think, 3 4th-round picks, was it, Tom, that we have given away?
Yeah. It's quite funny. Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, and Brisbane, Carlton, and Gold Coast have all brought in picks in the end of the trade period last year that would indicate they were planning on bidding on players this year.
Yeah. Like, imagine, with the Dacor story, and then you just make the clubs even more salty. Yeah, everyone agrees with it. Like, I saw Voss's interview yesterday. I saw Lumumia, everyone, a lot of coaches, Brad Scott, all of them agree with it. That, implement it. But then you can't have the Dacos is joining Collingwood like that, and then at the same time saying, oh, Camporellis can't come. I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, you can name anyone that they can't come because, oh, we're abolishing the system like tomorrow. Stupid.
I'm surprised we haven't heard from Brisbane, to be honest, because I think Brisbane are the biggest affected by this, and also Adelaide, because Tyler Welsh has been talked about since 2021. So let that sink in. He's 18 years old. So he was 15 when people started talking about him. And he is the Tex Walker replacement. Like, I am, and it's been quite open. They haven't targeted players that are very similar to him in the last 2 years. So I do find it bizarre. Shane's right as well. Yeah, Tigers have gone hard on picks. For me, my rules are 2025. Like, I would be saying to the AFL, you've got this year. If you don't want to follow the rules next year and you want to be a dickhead and trade picks out, just so you know, 2025, these are the rules, right? So embrace the rules this year. Don't do it. But it's an interesting one. But, I mean, I'm not the head of the AFL. I wish I was. The league would be better. I promise.
Everyone wishes you were, to be honest with you. I would. You'd have my vote. I'm pretty sure all of Blue Abroad and all the channels would have it too, but it just makes too much sense, Paul, for them to implement it, as Paul said. Doesn't make, it's funny.
Could you imagine a Pom in charge of the AFL? Jesus Christ. English guy in charge of the AFL.
Pom, I once saw a video. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, we would really be the most diverse country in the world if an English guy took over the AFL. It would literally, we'd win UN awards.
Right. I don't, obviously having women having the senior most positions is good, but I sometimes feel they're so forced, like, oh, because women are, say, for example, X percentage in the senior positions, or we need to have women. No, you need to have people like women. If women are good, bring them. If men are good, bring them. Don't just say because we need to have a certain ratio. That's incorrect. I feel like you should just obviously, reward the qualities that they have rather than looking at what the genders are. It's stupid. And Pom, what reminded me was I once was just browsing through YouTube, and then there was one guy, Pom as well, from England. He was actually watching your AFL video, the Blue Abroad. I think you recorded years ago, just explaining the rules of
it was one of the first videos I did, yeah.
Yeah. So just came across the video. I don't know how. I just saw enough. So obviously he has an English accent, and he was just watching you narrate how the rules are and stuff. And he just says it. He was like, "Oh, it's one of the one of us like who's actually narrating the rules. So I don't know if those rules are correct. You guys tell me in the challenge. That's fine." I was like, "Man, that's as legit as ruled as they get coming from Pom's mouth."
I remember that video. Do you know what I've?
You do?
You know what? It's quite weird because one of my mates. It's funny you say this because I went back home, right, and one of my mates had watched that video to try and get the AFL, and it's really bizarre because I experienced a similar scenario. So I was teaching someone in Australia about the offside rule, right, and he couldn't get it. Right, he couldn't get it, and he was actually doing my head in because I'm like, it's the simplest rule in the world, right? And then I came across a YouTube video where it was like a real proper Australian describing it. And I played him it. And like literally, it was like a light bulb went on. And the guy was saying the same as me. And he was like, nah, get it now. Why didn't you say that, Pommy? And I'm like, I did like 50 times. Right. But then one of my mates in England, he couldn't understand the rules. And then I showed him the video and he was like, oh, nah, fucking get it now, mate. And I think it's the accent. So I think I can explain it to English people better than an Aussie, and an Aussie can probably explain the game better than I can, right? It's a weird scenario.
Right. To be honest, Pom, like obviously that said, I think we may have started watching footy at the same time, but your ball knowledge is amazing, mate. So kudos to you. You amaze me. Even with your rating show, the amount of effort that you put in there, mate. I am a data guy. I'm an accountant. I'm CPA qualified, but I do my job. This is my day job. But when I see the intricacies and the kind of data that you actually accumulate, people may just think it's a visual, the heat map and stuff. Guys, trust me when I say it takes a lot of fucking time. It does. So thanks, Pom, because that content is my favorite. When you talk about that, and also your post game on your channel, when you talk about the differentials, the defensive half, the rebound 50s, the turnovers, so good. Love it because it gives so much insight into the game rather than just talking about the game or the form. Anyone can do that.
So I appreciate that, mate. Hey, it's something that I love doing. I love learning, and yeah, like I find it better when you know what's going on. I'm a weird guy. I like to know why things happen. I don't just accept it. I was that kid at school where if you told me not to do something, I had to do it because I wanted to know why. I wanted to know why.
Love it. That's our poem.
Well, we're at my favourite bit because I make some bold calls. So I wanted to hear yours and chat. You help us out. Who do you think has overachieved this year? We're at the halfway point. Which team have you looked at and gone, wow, I thought they were going to be rubbish?
You want chat to go, or do you want me to go first?
You go first. Tell us which team has surprised you.
People are going to say that it's it's sour grapes because we weren't as good, but I would say Essendon. Essendon, how they've gone. See, I'm not going to back them because I'm pretty sure I said it to Tez as well, that their game is very similar with us. Yeah, surely I'm with you as well. But their game is very similar to us, contest and pressure. They play how we used to play in 2022. Like we have the energy, we have the pressure, we have the players for it, but we just don't have the polish. It's just that that polish was so apparent when they played against us. And I know how pissed off you were when they brought in the inside 50s differentials.
That guy killed me.
Yes, because
I still wake up in the middle of the night.
And you started doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't play poker with anyone anymore.
No, right? Yeah, don't play poker because you certainly don't have a poker face or poker qualities. That's the only thing you lack, Pom. But funny, man. It's with them shallow entries, and yes, they were inaccurate. As I said, it kind of reminded me of a Geelong game as well. But in a nutshell, if I were to call Essendon, the teams that they have played and when they have played, my missus, she kind of likes Essendon as well, but she loves Carlton now. She won't admit it, but she does. But who have they played? Hawthorn, first round. They were shit then. You know what happened with them? Think they played Doggies. I think the Doggies and the GWS game was the best game. The GWS game was, I watched it. I didn't rate them, and their pressure was amazing. So the overachievers for me is Essendon because where they're sitting right now, it just doesn't sit right with me. And if I were to call second team that's there and probably don't deserve it, harsh, but Port Adelaide. I don't think because they have such a good team. The team is so good with what they have, the players that they have. But I feel Pom every time when the pressure gets to them, they crumble. Every time it's like when it's an acid test for them, they fail it. That's the other team. Hawthorn, I wouldn't say. Hawthorn is not. I would say that it's a team that doesn't deserve it. They have literally risen from they come from a fucking shitstorm. They've seen everything. Do you remember, Pom, when Sam Mitchell was yelling at one of the players because he didn't follow the instruction that he had and he gave it to his life? I don't remember the name of the player at the time, but that was the time when in the media, I think Kane Cons was saying that, oh, he's lost his cool and he's lose the players and stuff. You watched that game and then you watch the games after that. It's amazing. That's my after watching Carlton, Hawthorn is the team that I love watching. Amazing how they play.
I am a closet Hawthorn fan on this channel. I have bigged up Hawthorn a lot. I am a huge Sam Mitchell fan. My favourite all-time non-Galton player. Absolutely adore him, and it's good to see him going well. I agree with you. I think Essendon. I actually just looked at my preview for the year video, and I forgot who Essendon, I think I had 14th at the end of the year. Okay. So I could still be right, but there is one team I'm going to concede I was wrong about. And I had Fremantle being absolutely horrible this year. I thought they were going to be bottom four. What Richmond are doing, I thought Fremantle. I looked at their trade window last year. I thought it was appalling. I looked at their season. Fremantle have actually shocked me because I don't know how they're winning. Because I honestly think that might be the worst team I have ever seen play football. And it might also be the most boringest style of football. But somehow they keep winning, and they do surprise me. They've got something about them Fremantle Dockers.
Yeah, they do. Paul, it's funny because I think the media creates such narratives and changes day by day. That's why, week by week, sorry, and I don't, stand to the fact to say they are correct. I don't accept it. But from when they were struggling, remember the game that they played against us? I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. Or probably like Scripps is gonna go and in the stands and this, I think that's when he had his baby first week. He's like, fuck this game, I'm just going back and I'm not playing because they're not playing. Uncontested footy, they were literally passing it horizontally. No one's going inside, and because we were frustrated, we brought the pressure. They would just obviously go on a turnover. And but after the first 4 or 5 rounds, the turnover game was, I think, in the past 5 years, because I love champions data. I look at SEN just for champions data. I love numbers. Accountants who can't help it as well. So they were saying that they were top four in the last 5, 6 weeks free metal with the ball movement, which is amazing. So there's definitely something there. But what I feel like what happened with them, the aberration with Melbourne, but Melbourne's also in shadows right now, the tatters. But they are a horror team. But yeah, I feel like they are there. I don't know how they got the downs. I don't know either.
I agree with Shane here because you mentioned Sydney as overachievers. I wasn't surprised because I did have them to win the flag last year. I was just a year wrong. I do like Sydney. But I agree with this as well. Fremantle are like Danny's suggestion as well, Port. I never know why Port are in my top 8 because I had them in my top 8, but you can't tell me why Port are in the top 8. You know they're going to be, but it's probably because there's no one else better than Port. But Fremantle, like Shane says, they are so shit or either okay. It's a weird thing about Fremantle. I can't get a read on them. I can't get a read on them.
It's funny with Port because the certainty with them is they're gonna beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. That's the certainty with Port. So say for example from 11th to the 18th, they're gonna beat them. But when it comes to top 8, look at the record. I'm pretty sure it's symbolic. They've only have like one win out of 5 or 6. I think we have the best record after Sydney when it comes to playing top 8 teams. And that other data, like love your numbers, Pom, that on the average over 13 rounds, we have played the sixth best ranked team if you were to average it out over 13 rounds. That's crazy. And the fact, Pom, they've been hit by fucking top 8 teams round after round after round after round. Like now we after the Essendon game, you'd imagine, oh, maybe we'll get a West Coast game. Fucking playing Geelong again. We haven't even played St Kilda. We haven't played Hawthorn and West Coast. So we are again versing the top team. And I said it to Tez when I came in on the Essendon fan camps. I'd rather play these games now. And trust me, Pom, such a good learning curve. Imagine if the Sydney aberration happened in round 20. Can you imagine what it would have done to our belief and our system? So close to the final series. I'm grateful, but I agree with you. Yeah, with Paul.
It's a weird thing. The fixtures, I did break someone's heart the other day because Carlton, Richmond, GWS, and Geelong have statistically had the hardest fixtures, and that's Champ Starter don't view it like this as well. It's really funny, but I view it as what ladder position you are after everyone's played from round 1 because you can't count it alphabetical. Champ Starter do count round 1, so they count it alphabetical, which I find weird. But to back your point up there, what is a weird thing about, and I haven't decoded the algorithm. There is an algorithm they use for the fixtures. It is really weird. Over the last 20 years, it roughly averages that you play, by the end of the season, 10.1, which is roughly a fair system. I don't know how they do it, because there's no way you could predict it, right? There is no way you could predict which side is shit in the next year. But it does roughly equalise out that you do play a fair system at the end of the year. I don't know how it happens, though. Like, I think it might be luck. Sometimes it's just luck, but it is a weird thing. A weird thing. Weird pom fact there for you.
Love it,
And that leads me on to my next question. Which team has let you down? Which team were you really expecting to be in the mix who are rubbish at the moment?
To be honest, if I were to say a team that I thought is going to be in top 4, Brisbane. Brisbane has really, really underperformed. Like you did not see them losing at the Gamma, but we are the hoodoo breakers, if you were to call that. If hoodoo is such a thing, as Tom says, hoodoo is in your head. If you believe it, it is. Be it and it is. But nah, we did that, and then everyone and their fucking dog went and bet them there. And when obviously I'm referring to Collingwood, so they go there, they beat them. And they obviously Geelong goes there. Yes, it was raining and it was not the perfect conditions, but they go beat them as well. So they were 0-3 to start the season. And I did not see it coming. Yes, I know from that their forwards, Hipwood and Danaher, they are not very consistent. Like Hipwood he's either too good or he's shit. There's no in
Yeah,
between with him, isn't it?
yeah. He's Anthony Marshall.
Tony
He's either 3
Marshall.
goals or no goals for 10 years.
Mate, Tony Marshall got his little loan to Sevilla as well. He played shit there as well, by the way. But but yeah, it's just one of those things that I think this situation was very similar to Melbourne's. It's just that Melbourne's game was better. I feel like when it comes to the forward line, I think they're very similar teams when it comes to profile for me. Either they're too good on their day or they're very bad. And that's one team, Brisbane, and the other team. I won't say they've underperformed, but I probably would have seen them in the top 10 is St Kilda. They, I feel like they overachieved last year with the list they had, and they made the top 8. But I definitely didn't see them where they're sitting right now. The games that they should have won, they didn't win. Um, and even the West Coast game. Sorry, not the West Coast game. The other game that they played against, what's the bottom team that they lost? Help me out here. That they lost
Richmond?
against. Yes, yes, yes. Richmond. Richmond, to be honest, I saw them maybe not say, for example, 15 to 14, but maybe 12 to 11. So I'm not too surprised. But St Kilda and Brisbane for me are the teams that I was like, they probably would have done better. More Brisbane, and they are where they are. I'm not saying that Brisbane's not going to make the finals, but Pom, I feel it's going to be between Brisbane and Fremantle who makes the top 8.
I think that's fair. I think Brisbane will come back. I think I agree with you as well. They've been disappointing this year. They are. Shane asked, Shane, interesting little fact. I think it was 82% of all teams that have won the flag have gone 100% in their last 4. You actually, Geelong, have the hardest run home from the last 5. It's an astronomical hard run home. So you have got a hard period now, but you have been dipped on the back end. Carlton have the second easiest run home statistically, but you have the hardest. And my team that disappointed, Adelaide. I was all in on Adelaide. I really thought Adelaide were a potential top 4 side. I thought the pain last year, young list, exciting brand of football. I thought they would come into this season angry. And Adelaide, like, now I'm talking about, is Nick's in trouble? Is he going to get sacked? Like, I think they're that bad. Like, I think Adelaide, I think it could get worse as well. Looking at their fixtures, I think it could be a real bad year for Adelaide.
What's it's interesting that you brought it up. I read Adelaide as well because I love watching them play as well. Last year, they were one of those games that if I'm not watching Carlton, I'll watch Adelaide. What do you think has been the turning point for them, Pom? If you were to just summarize it within, say, for example, 2 or 3 point is why they are where they are.
I think Josh Rochelle kind of touched on it. I feel like they've tried to overcomplicate their system and now players don't quite understand their roles. Josh Rochelle was quite open about he didn't quite understand his role and what was required. And I think the big thing is you look at the interstate teams, your Brisbane's, your Sydney's, you make your interstate fortress your home. I don't think Adelaide is a scary place to go anymore. You mentioned the hoodoo we broke. Teams seem to don't look scared there anymore. They look they don't seem to be confident. I think that's a big thing for the interstate sides. I do think your advantage is if you can win your home games, you've got a chance. I think Sydney have proved that. They look unbeatable at the SCG. Adelaide, I'm not scared of going to Adelaide, and I wasn't when we went this time because I looked at their form and I was like, I don't think you're that good.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I do wonder if it is something to do with last year. I wonder if they're maybe using that energy the wrong way, where it might have motivated you. Maybe they feel like the world's against them and they're playing a little bit petulant. They just don't look good. Like, you watch Adelaide, you know they're going to crumble. They remind me very much of Port Adelaide in finals. They'll play well for a couple of quarters, but when the pressure comes, like that game against Sydney, I thought summed Adelaide up. They bullied them for a quarter. Once Sydney stood up, it looked like they wanted to get off the field. They didn't want to run anymore. And in the end, it was too easy. Really too easy for Sydney.
The game was interesting because I saw the first half and I was like, they are probably going to win this game because how they were playing. And then you just saw a drop in momentum, and it was almost like they were just waiting for it to happen. And I think Sydney has done it to a lot of teams this season. Happened to us. Happened to us. Happened to Geelong. Happened to Adelaide. So it's been one of those things. But it's funny how you mentioned Port Adelaide in the final series, because when you verse those two teams, you saw what happened to Port Adelaide. They literally just smashed them out of the park. But yeah, it's disappointing, the Crows, unfortunately.
It is. I mean, yeah, I don't really care though, because fuck Adelaide, do you know what I mean? But I mean, it makes me look silly because I was so strong in him. But now we get to our favourite time, chat. You tell us what you thought about the weekend, chat, as well. It's very important. I will share the most important thing that we see. We see the votes. So, Danny, these are the votes so far. We've got... There you are, you should see it. But so far, Patrick Cripps is leading our medal race. We've got Nick Dacos hot on his heels. Player of the month 2 months ago, Jeremy Cameron's bonus votes are coming in handy. Harry McKay's good start. Bontempelli's there, gone. Walsh, Raoul, Green and Noah Anderson making up the top 10. And these were my votes this week. Gave Joel Amati. I think it's hard not to give a man 10 votes. Marcus Bontempelli got 4. Brodie Grundy. Nick Dacos' fourth quarter gets him over the line. And James Sicily. But Danny, which votes are you choosing this week? Take us through it.
It's, as you said, I kept it a surprise, but to be honest, if I would have told you, or if anybody would have watched those games, they would have known what were the top 5. So I think my top 2 are flipped, but all the bottom 3 are similar. So my 5 votes go to Bont for his 30 touches and 3 goals. All because I could have put Marnie there, but the reason being that he was sick, so he didn't train. And then to be sick and then just rock up and play a game like that against Fremantle, who were coming off the bye, amazing. My 4th was Amari, as I said, 9 goals, 1 behind, 10 touches, Pom. 10 touches, 9 goals. Explain that to me.
Not bad,
Not bad at all. Crazy game. Flipped it literally. Amazing game. Who do you stop in that team? You can stop Warner, you can stop Golden, you can stop, seriously, Haney, and then there's Amari there. There's such a...
You know what is scary as well? Callum Mills hasn't played yet this year. He's still injured, and he's pretty good as well.
He is.
Not bad. Not bad if you're Sydney.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I see them getting out of the elimination final. Sydney.
Yeah,
elimination final? Prelim, not elimination final.
I did guarantee Sydney won't win the flag last week. So I actually think it's straight sets. Pom's big call. I think it's straight sets. I'm telling you now. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Clip it, take the piss in September. But there's no way a team can keep this up till the final. It's impossible.
It's impossible. Kind of reminds me of, again, we're talking too much about Port, but Port Adelaide's run at the latter half, and then we gave them a punch in the face, and they lost to us by 50 points. Their run kind of just mirrors that. obviously they're very much convincing. Turnover game number one. I really rate turnover one game because as the champions data suggests that the last 17 of the 18 premiers have been top three, if not top one in the turnover game, and they're ruling that. So that my third word goes to Grundy. You can literally mirror that. Dacos two and Sicily one. Brody Grundy, 31 touches and 49 hitouts in the game. 49.
It's
I just
insane,
don't
isn't
know
it?
why.
Really, if you think about it, it's great to see Brody Grundy back as well. I think
It is.
I think he's
It
a
is.
good story because everyone thought he was over, didn't they? This time last year, everyone said that his career was done, and it's great to see him back where he should be, in my opinion, which is the best ruckman in the league when he wants to be.
Which kind of just like makes me think that why would Sheffield, okay, Collingwood sold him for a big salary. They just didn't want his salary, sold it to Melbourne. And then Melbourne had the best backup for gone. Right now, it's either gone or bust. They don't have another backman ruckman. So why would they trade or literally for peanuts, give it to the competitor in Sydney Swan? And now they're literally on one leg. If something happens to Gone, touch wood, they're without a ruckman, a good ruckman when I say a ruckman. So that just blows my mind. Two Dacos, as much as I hate putting him there, I love him as a player. Don't get me wrong, but just I don't know if the chat knows he grew up as a Carlton fan because
He
he
did,
was
yeah.
friends with the Silvanis. Yeah,
It's
so he was friends with the Silvanis.
scary, isn't
So
it?
he was a Carlton fan. I've seen photos of him in Carlton jerseys. Imagine in Carlton Dacos. Oh, would
Wouldn't
have
be
been
bad.
amazing, wasn't it? But
I
yeah,
could
not
find a
bad.
way
But
to put him in the team.
really, can you?
Yeah, I'd wedge him in there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I'd take someone out. Maybe Jack Carroll could have a spell. Nick Dacos for Jack Carroll. Could see it.
Oh, wow, man. Oh, well, in an ideal world, that would have happened. But yeah, 29 touches. I think you only had 13 touches in the at the halftime, and I have no idea. I think that game was lost by North Melbourne, yes, by umpiring, as I initially said, but I feel like by coaching, the tag was removed in the first half after the first half, sorry, and then third and fourth quarter he just ran riot. Two goals and clutch fourth quarter. He was amazing. And then Sicily, 33 touches for a defender. Explain that for 15 marks. 15
He's
marks.
he's some. James Sicily. People always talk about Jacob Whittaker as being like underrated because he's not an All-Australian. I totally agree. I think James Sicily never gets the credit as well as that he should do. Like everyone raves about Sam Taylor last year, Tom Stewart the year before. James Sicily seems to just go under the radar. Like for me, James Sicily has been the best intercept defender in the league for nearly a decade, and no one knows he exists. It's like he's the hidden secret of the AFL. But I think what he's doing at Hawthorn with a young team, he literally leads by example. And yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a terrific footballer. Like James, when people say to me, if you could bring one player into the team, my brain always thinks, can you imagine putting James Sicily next to Whittaker?
Just in McGovern role or camp role.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like he's never injured. He's never injured. He's robust. He's strong. Yeah, I just think he's a terrific footballer. In fact, any five of them players on that list, I'd probably take at Carlton, to be fair.
That's true. Bomb 15 marks. Just blows my mind. He took 15 marks. It's crazy. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that because I think one of my friends was asking me, he was like, if you were, say, for example, by a good player, like you had to trade for one position in your team, which one would it be? Everyone just seems to, I don't know what's the obsession with half forwards. I get it, yes. But I'd rather buy a defender for because what if, God forbid, touch wood, if McGovern falls, you know what happens to us. Marchbank's coming in. And no, I don't have any hair on the guy. I love him, but he just can't perform at the level of McGovern. So we need a key defender, and Sicily would be very sweet.
Yeah, I'd love James Sicily. He'd be there. I mean, I'd love Bontempelli. I mean, Bontempelli and Cripps. I mean, we always say Kennedy and Hewitt aren't mobile enough. Imagine Bontempelli and Cripps. I mean, I could probably play in a midfield with Bont and Cripps. Like, I'd just have to turn up. But yeah, no, it's good to dream. It's good to dream. And this is what happens to the medal. Patrick Cripps still leads because he's played less games, so that does count. Nick Dacos, though, joins him level on points. Marcus Bontempelli is now third. Jeremy Cameron, we had 2 Geelong fans on in this voting system, and it shows. But Max Gorn, Harry Mackay, Sam Walsh, Matt Rao, Green, Brody Grundy breaks into the top 10. Isaac Heaney and Noah Anderson make up your top 10. This is a big, big vote. Honestly, I've spoke to some players. They don't care about the Brownlow anymore. They want to win the Pombardi Trophy, and we will get a real trophy to one of these players. It does help that the top 3, I can access them. So anyone who comes on, keep voting for these players. It helps. It helps. It makes it easier to give the award. But Danny, mate, honestly, that's been my most fun hour and a half. Thank you very much to you, mate. And give me your prediction this week. We've got a Geelong fan in chat. What are you expecting from the Blues? What's your score prediction?
So, Sean, it was amazing. As you said, it's been amazing since I've spoken to you for the first time. Love you, Pom, for what you do for our community. Even the post that you put on yesterday about Carlton respects and whatever's going on right now with it's unfair and it's sad, but it is the sad reality of a community. And much love to you, Pom. So
Thank you very much,
that,
mate.
and I really loved it. You're very welcome, man. You deserve more, and thank you for everything. As for the prediction, I always had it split 1-1. As same as Tez. They're gonna win one. We're gonna win one, but both were played at the MCG. We take this one. Best on ground for me in this game would be Zach Williams. He's gonna kick 4. Is my prediction, and I feel we are gonna win by 19 points this game.
Mate,
for them, I feel Pom. Jeremy Cameron, not more than 2 goals. 1 goal, actually. He's not scoring against us this game. And Chinkora is going to go to what's the name of this player in the midfield?
Max Holmes?
Yes, Max Holmes. He's going to tag him for sure. If you tag him, the supply is gone. Dangerfield is Dangerfield. You can't tag him. But if you tag Max Holmes, that's the game. You can't off Chinkora. And we saw the injury list as well, Pom. I'm pretty sure you would have seen it as well. Shera is out for another week. Martin's not coming in, which is kind of good. Good in the sense that we play the same team. I feel Carroll. I would play Fantasia in this game because of his experience and because of what he can bring with his an experienced head in those situations may help us. Yes, he might have the same input as Jack Carroll, but I believe a 19-point win. Pom, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I've got... people aren't going to like this. I think Carlton win by 3. I've had 3 in my head since I started planning the preview. I think it's going to be a real... I actually think it's going to be a low-scoring game as well. I've got a feeling it's going to be something like 72-69, like a real scrappy game of... Because I actually think, and I said it today in my mid-season preview, I actually feel this is like guaranteeing top 2. I think whoever wins this is pole position for top 2. And I think both teams will play like that because I think it's their last real hard game. Even though both teams have got some tricky fixtures over the next 5 weeks, I think this is the one that if you can get 4 points, you're 4 points ahead mathematically in your next 5. So I think it's going to be a real tough game where two teams go toe-to-toe and Carlton win it late. Blake Aiken magic.
Blake Aiken's best on ground?
I think Blake Aiken's going to have a big game, yeah, because I think the teams that when you play Geelong, because they play on the narrower ground, it does come into it. There's not much statistics that back it, but teams that go wide and spread well genuinely do well. If they can win the midfield battle and get out wide, I feel like Blake Acres is going to have a big game. And Carlton and Geelong have a horrible, tight game and everyone's upset until the end.
All right. I'll take it. 1 point win, 2 point win, 3 point win. I'll take a win and 4 points. Thank you very much for coming.
Hey, Shane, don't do it to me. Don't say your team's not going to win, because it always makes me on edge when my Essendon mate said if we get within 40 points of Carlton, I'll be chuffed. And that started to worry me because I'm like, oh, don't say that. Say you're going to win. I don't like it when you say it's game over, Carlton win. Cardiac Carlton Julie is the best Carlton. I've got to say, I enjoy these games where you just never know who's going to win. I like it. I'm going to admit. I enjoy it.
Cardiac Carlton. I just want to win because, yes, I'm a very different person. I'm not this calm when I'm watching a game. I'm actually really... You know what happened, Pom? Funny story before we call it a night. Semi-final, I had this thing that when I go to the game, Carlton lose last year. I went to the Carlton Collingwood game around 10. Well, they lost. And I was like, you know what? A couple of the games, they didn't do well. Like, I'm not going. Melbourne, Carlton, semi-final, 53-57 or whatever the score was at the time. 3 minutes to go. I resigned to the fact in my head, given up. Like, all right, it's all right. Good season, blah, blah, blah. Weetring gets it from Viney, gives it to Hollins, gives it to Doherty, kicks it to Akers, and then whatever happened. That goal happened, didn't celebrate, by the way. I didn't celebrate. After the siren, I used to live in the apartments. I just moved into the house that we built, but at the time I was in the apartment. I yelled as loud, like, all the frustration inside. I yelled and I punched the table repeatedly. 3 hours later, my bell, my phone in the apartment rings, and it's the Cobbers. So it's Victoria Police at my door. I was like, oh, we have heard complaint that there was a fight going on over here. And at this point, it's been 2 hours past that time. So I'm chill. I've touched the fact that we've won. We're going to Prelim, going to Brisbane. And it doesn't register to me. I was like, what? It's like, mate, don't try to act like don't try to act stupid. We 100% know it came from this apartment. And I was like, what? And then it just hit me. I was like, oh. I was like, was it a Carlton game? And he won. And he laughed. He was like, have a good night. So that was my night that night, mate. So, yeah. So I'm a very different person watching the game, and I'll take 4 points, mate. I'll take 4 points every day of the night and every night. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, I'm with you. 1 point, 1,001 points. I don't care. As long as our name is on the W column. But Danny, mate, pleasure talking to you. Now it's on camera as opposed to in the DMs. You're an absolute superstar, mate. I love your support and I love you to pieces. And everyone in chat, have a great night. We'll see you next time, and go Blues.
Go Blues.